Hello, everyone. It is Friday, November 9th, 2018. This is Kops Office Hours. I am your facilitator, Justin Santa Barbara. I work at Google. I have put the agenda in the chat, or the link to the agenda in the chat. And it's great to see some new people here today. Welcome to all of you. I don't know if anyone wants to introduce themselves. You don't have to, but if you would like to, feel free. We can proceed with the agendas. We have a bunch of things on the agenda. But I will say I am fans of some of the companies I see people representing. So thank you for everything you guys do. And all right, so first up, Ryan, an update on the 1.11 beta 1.12 alpha, which is very related to the thing I added immediately on the agenda next up, which is sincere apologies for the delays here. This is entirely my fault. I can only apologize. I'm sorry. I'm trying to catch up on the PRs, in particular, the ones that update network providers. There seem like a bunch of those that probably should go in. And yes, we've also had an issue in the last week where we lost quota in AWS. So I don't know if you've noticed, like basically all the Kubernetes PRs and all of Kubernetes are failing because of kops AWS failing. It's not a kops issue directly, but it is rather a quota issue. So that is also held us up. But I am intending to make up lost time. Yes, once we cut 1.11 beta, I think we can cut 1.12 alpha. I would say there are still issues in Kubernetes 1.11 which are being found. So maybe we're not too far behind. I mean, we're obviously very far behind, but maybe don't run it in prod just yet. The issue I'm thinking of particularly is one involving node addresses going missing. There is a PR or a backport out for that. So if you see that, that is a known issue. I don't know how people feel about that, whether people would have preferred like a second alpha just with where we were right now, or how people feel.
Hey, do you have a PR or issue handy for the node addresses going missing?
I will do that. Trying to think what's next on the agenda. Maybe someone can talk while I go. No, not really.
Or like, is there something I can just query? Or should I just look up like missing node addresses and I can find it?
Yes, I hope so. I'm just typing it in now. So okay. It's node addresses. It's a backport PR. I will try to find it if we have a moment, and we can talk later if I forget.
All right. Sorry. Thanks.
That's good. That's a good point. I should have had that to hand. I'm sorry. Okay. But yeah, I don't know how people feel, whether we would have preferred another alpha with just whatever we had gotten to date, or whether we like the idea of more like a beta being more ready. But yeah, I know we are behind, so I apologize. Next, Mike, I don't know if you're trying to say something, but you are muted.
Well, I was just going to chime in if you wanted feedback. I mean, I don't know. I think probably more alphas or betas is always preferred over none. Just my 2 cents, but
I think that's fair. And maybe we could try to do a scheduled alpha thing. Maybe a scheduled alpha.
Works for me. Yeah.
Like, because I mean, alphas are not necessarily particularly high quality, or they don't have the same quality bar, and so we can just do like, it seems like we could do alphas on a timeline.
Right.
All right, we can try that with 1.12, I guess. And then next up on the agenda, Aaron asked, will etcd manager be recommended for production deployments in kops 1.11? I don't know if there's anything you want to add there, but I think that the question is reasonably self-contained, if not. The answer is likely not. There are two. So the good news, there's great news here, which is that we have a sub-project for etcd manager. It's going to merge with a project called etcd ADM. That project has been approved by SIG Cluster Lifecycle, so that will happen. We'll be spinning that up. We're not going to block on that happening on the sort of the, that project, like integrating and getting it all spun up. But that will be So this will no longer be a COP-specific component or a weird like ancillary component. It is a SIG cluster lifecycle. It will be a SIG cluster lifecycle component, which is great news. A SIG cluster lifecycle subproject, which is great news. We do have two issues, at least. Oh, we have three issues that I'm aware of, which block it becoming recommended for production deployments in COPS 111. The working backwards, I guess, TLS certificates for there's just no support for yet. I don't think that's terribly hard to add, but just need to do that. There is an issue with rolling updates in HA clusters. So the issue in particular is when you first switch, I think, from etcd, from protocube etcd, sort of the legacy etcd management, to etcd manager in an HA cluster, it won't, or the odds are against you, like being able to do a rolling update without forcing it. We would basically have to go in and kick some of the etcd manager processes to have that work. I believe it's only on first switch, so it might be that we get away with a release note there. I don't know how people feel about that, but I need to like figure out the exact scenarios there. The more complicated issue is Calico currently talks directly to etcd. They have a mode for using CRDs instead, which is sort of the preferred approach going forwards for as far as Kubernetes is concerned. I'm not sure how Calico views it. If Calico uses CRDs, it wouldn't have to talk to etcd directly. It would talk to the API server, and the API server talks to etcd. So that's a better model for us, but I did not find when I went, so I looked at this problem and I did not find an upgrade path from where we are today to that. I did define that we can run other networking modes and that we could transition to, so for example, you can live migrate from Calico to Copio networking is the one I tried because I wrote that one, so I sort of know how it works, and that works. So I was thinking one of the options we could do is put up that as a proposed path and then let Calico be motivated, hopefully, to provide a more like keep you on Calico path. But honestly, I looked at the docs and there didn't seem to be a migration path from, I guess, Calico 2 with etcd to Calico 3 with CRDs.
Justin, this is Aaron. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm in a train, so I've got some bad audio. But I'm working with a customer, and we're looking at Cilium. And Cilium also talks directly to etcd, so I'm assuming that would be the same challenge.
Yes, so here's what would make it. Yeah, and I think we've spoken to Cilium before about that they should probably go to CRDs, and I think they know about that. I think there's a particular challenge because of like etcd 2 to etcd 3. So I don't know if Cilium, I don't know if Calico will work if we just keep it on etcd 3. I think if you're using Cilium, I would encourage you to adopt etcd 3 and etcd manager earlier, or at least like try out the migration because you really don't want to get stuck. I actually quite like Cilium's model, and yeah, I don't know whether Cilium's a little odd in that I don't think it isn't using etcd for the same purpose as Calico. It's using it, I think, to keep track of like their mappings of I can't remember what they call it, but identities to like permissions. So it would be great if it was in CRDs, but I think that's on their roadmap. But yeah, I would certainly be aware that it could be tricky in future.
Okay, that's helpful. I think the biggest challenge with etcd manager though is TLS certificates, because I would definitely want to turn that on.
Absolutely. So yes, you do, and then like if Cilium is talking to it, we have to provide those certificates to Cilium, and we have to, at some stage etcd manager is going to get better at, or we're calling it etcd ADM now, so I'll use its new name. etcd ADM is going to support things like certificate rotation and all those sorts of things, and we're going to have to integrate clients into that, which is going to be less than fun. So yeah, it's not ideal. One of the interesting options might be to run the etcd operator or an etcd operator as a backing store for Cilium. If it isn't like if the bootstrapping still works, as it were. So if you can still bring up Cilium without without needing Cilium, as it were, or without needing etcd, if you can bootstrap it, then if you can bootstrap the underlying etcd without needing Cilium to be running, talking to etcd, then you could run a Cilium specific etcd, which would be separate from the Kubernetes etcd.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
We should probably talk to Cilium about. We should ask Cilium what they would recommend, because it's definitely something that I'm sure they're aware of the problem, and it would be good to chat with them about their plans and how they would move customers that are running today.
I just got pointed to the etcd operator for Cilium 1.3. That's what they're recommending at the moment.
Yes, I would definitely. I personally need to have another look at the etcd operator because of some of the edge cases around it. We can't use it for the etcd ADM use case because it relies on Kubernetes. So there's a circular dependency there. The last time I looked, there were some odd edge cases around, like if you lose quorum, it would delete the data. So I hope that's been fixed. But I don't know if anyone else has any insight into Calico upgrades other than the idea that we publish an alternative that is Calico to not Calico, and then Calico hopefully steps in and says, aha, you can actually stay on Calico. If anyone has any great ideas, please do open an issue or something in kops, I guess. Next on the agenda, I don't know if anyone else wants to bring up anything, but next on the agenda, do the Copio, Jesse, AMIs have a changelog? The answer is no, they don't directly, but the machinery to build them is open source, and it is supposed to be, or it is turnkey. Well, it's turnkey if you have everything working. So in other words, it works for me. And if the instructions don't work for you, then please let me know, or open an issue there. The intention is it should be very straightforward to build your own images should you choose to. I would love to get to the point where the image that we build is byte for byte identical to the image that you would build. We are a long way away from that, just generally in terms of the state of the world. But there's some great stuff happening on that front. But yes, so today the best option is to, well, you have the changelog, and then if you want to be sure that that the image is built according to that changelog, you can build your own image according to those same instructions, and you should produce the same output, logical output, even if it's not byte for byte identical.
Thank you for taking my question. This is Daniel. This is just chasing a Kubernetes issue that was documented on the actual Kubernetes project, not kops. I'll probably gather a little bit more information. I don't want to derail the meeting and chasing down an issue, but we'll try to gather some notes and maybe get in the next office meeting with those.
Okay, that's great. What was the rough idea? What was the issue roughly? Because it might be that someone else knows it.
Gotcha. So in the Kubernetes project, issue 6473, 64743, I'm sorry. It's a kernel level integration bug with Kubernetes. And we are actually having this issue in our production kops environment right now. And so we're just trying to see if upgrading the AMI would help that. But just kind of a shot in the dark. That's why we are attending today. But I don't, yeah, it's a pretty long shot, but we'll see.
There is a, so you're not obligated to use that AMI, right? So if you wanted to, you could try, the latest Ubuntu image, or the latest Red Hat image, or the latest Debian image, or the latest Amazon System Linux image. And you can also, if you create a second instance group,
okay,
you are able to specify a different image there. So you could, have 1 or 2 nodes and see if the problem happens there, and you can use taints or You can use node selectors to steer workloads and taints to steer node selectors to steer workloads to it, and taints to steer workloads away from it. So you can sort of introduce it that way if you would like to try.
Gotcha.
Yes,
yeah, I mean, our issue is it only happens in our production environment. Our test environments don't field as much volume or traffic, and like basically we can't roll our Kubernetes clusters with the new version of X application because of this. But again, I don't want to derail the meeting too far, but we'll probably gather more information and maybe join the next office hours with more details so that we can get directly to the issue.
That would be great. And I am probably due to build another AMI, so we can try that as well. I don't know if anyone else is on the call has hit this or is aware of this issue.
Dan, you might want to just open a kops issue and just start dumping data there if you can put any of it publicly. Just that way, not everyone can attend this, unfortunately. Start putting some info in there if you can, and get the community involved.
Yeah, for sure. We'll try to see if we can, on our next production release, I think it's in another week or two, we'll dump all the information to the servers that get hung up.
Great. Thank you. That's a great way. Yeah. Great suggestion, Mike. GR Mooney asks, I believe there was a mention in a previous office hours about an issue with fetching protocube too often. Can we get a recap/reminder on that? I don't know if there's anything you want to add there.
No, just I've been lurking around for a while and remember hearing a conversation. I believe it was protocube was being fetched and we were hitting some limits. And just to try and get some more context on that, I have a lurking suspicion I might be able to weigh in on what part of that is. Because I know we were fetching protocube every 2 seconds on crashing nodes.
It was you!
It might be me.
Yes, this sounds. Yes, I've been looking for you. Thank you so much for coming. Yeah, let me tell you there is some edge case where yes, a small subset of nodes were fetching protocube very often, and the limit we were hitting was financial. It was costing money.
Yep.
Thankfully, AWS helped us out for a little bit. Long term, we're going to move to. So they gave us some budget to ease the pain. Long term, so thank you to AWS for that. Long term, we are going to get our artifacts in the CNCF is going to host our artifacts and is going to be a bigger bucket to pay for these whoopsies. But yeah, we added some backoffs to later versions of kops. But yeah, if you know what was actually the underlying issue, that would be super helpful.
Yeah, for sure. So what I can do is I can link a current Moby ticket I have open. Hopefully the short version I can explain is we had clusters with live restore enabled on Docker. It turns out that live restore, if you restart the daemon but the machine's still alive, Docker doesn't restore the default networks. So things like protocube can't start because they want the host network, and there's no host network on the box. And of course, we restart protocube according to the manifest every 2 seconds with a pull always, right? So it's constantly trying to grab it, and it is slowly every 2 seconds it launches 7 kops specific containers that can't run, and then it does it again 2 seconds later, 2 seconds later, until the point where you have 3,000 protocube containers sitting on this machine. So we've rolled fleet-wide. We've taken live restore off. We have the Moby issue open. I'll link it in the agenda so people can track along. And I'm working with the Docker folks to see if we can either fix that or for future versions, because it's a neat feature, but that's a horrible bug to unfortunately bring to the table.
That is wonderful. Yeah, if you're able to give any more details, then yeah, I hadn't thought about the idea that protocube itself would be restarting. So yeah, so it would be great if you could give me some details, and then I can try to, because I did a sort of speculative fix, but yeah, it'd be wonderful to get more details and actually do the real fix. So
for sure, cool.
Thank you. And I'll have to check whether whether the numbers have gone way down. Maybe if it was all you.
We're still rolling out that change, so maybe
okay.
Get Monday, and if the number goes way down, then it was totally us.
Okay. Well, thank you for owning up. I appreciate it. Okay, that's great news. That might have made my day. All right, next on the agenda, Cooper, offline kops deployment. I think we talked about this in SIG@AWS, didn't we? So thank you for coming back to kops office hours.
Oh, yes. Great to be here. I just wanted to know if there's any more, if you had any time to think about it. I opened up an issue, like you said, just looking for any kind of dependency that may be called out. So after we talked, like I was saying, I got all the Terraform scripts, pulled everything that I was going to get from the internet, put it in my Nexus repo, and I'm deploying all of this from the GitLab CI. So I made a custom, continuous integration pipeline to just deploy all of it, the kops, and then deploy all of my custom Helm charts of stuff on top of it. So it's just building out a cluster and then putting software on it, like that makes sense. So I haven't run into any problems yet, but I haven't been able to fully test it. I just want to know, you were talking about the network plugins. I switched mine from the default to Calico just to see if it was going to pull something different from the internet, but instead it just pulls a big archive of something called network plugins. I don't know if it needs anything more to do other things. And do you recommend a different overlay network? Because now is the time for me anyway.
So I think the network plugins is the CNI network plugins, which is a binary that you need basically for any of the non-built-in network plugins. So I think we made it so that if you're not running with public IPs, you basically have to use a network plugin. I don't know if anyone here is currently running offline, or there was some functionality that was 3/4 built, and I don't know if anyone's actually using that.
Okay, that's fine. I'll let you know how it goes. Oh, hi.
Hi, Elena Beeswax here. The only thing that I have to maybe add or would be helpful here is just I use the AWS network plugin with Spot in the mix. It's a whole thing. But what I can say is, at least in the cluster spec, I can specify which Docker image I want to use for the CNI, for that particular networking driver. So I don't know if you'll have that option with Calico. I haven't tried that, but you could specify the image, and I think that would respect whichever private repo, the image registry, if you needed to use that. But obviously you're going to want to test and investigate. It could be analogous. I thought I'd just throw that out there.
Cool. I will definitely do that. Thank you.
But I guess we got so close. I obviously have been a little. I think the next 1.11 has to take priority, but I would love to actually try this and see where it is. So I will dig up your issue, Cooper, and see what the status is, because it would be fun to try. And I feel like all the pieces are there. And in your case, does Nexus, or are you using a HTTP? Does Nexus present as an HTTP proxy, or is it a rewrite of image names?
I just manually went into all the Terraform files and put the URL to Nexus instead of the internet. I was thinking about doing a proxy service, but then wouldn't I have to go into the host itself and change where to pull repos from? So I don't want to go too far. I'm trying to do things quickly.
Yeah, I know someone did add separately from the. So there was some work which I think Chris Love and someone else who I forget was working on to basically automate what you were working on, what you did, but they got not all the way through. Basically to rewrite artifact locations, and I think separately someone else implemented the ability to specify HTTP and I think HTTPS proxies, which I guess might if you had a proxy that pulled from S3 or whatever your backing store was, maybe that would work. But anyway, I was just wondering how Nexus presented. It sounds like it presents as more like the first case, where you specify a new URL.
Yeah, I think you can set it up to also have a proxy as well. Just one thing at a time, I guess. But yeah, I'll give that a go.
Cool. Yeah, and I'll try that as well. I think that'd be an interesting one to try. I might be obligated to try it on GCP first because of my employer, but hopefully it will carry over.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, next and currently last item on the agenda, so please do add things if you would like to. Elena.
Cool. Hi. So I just wanted to give a quick update about So there's a massive PR that was landed recently in the 1.11 alpha to add Spot Inst as a cloud provider in kops. And so essentially, so Spot Inst is a company. They used, they're basically an abstraction for Spot instances on AWS, or I forget the terminology, but like just non-reserved instances in whichever cloud provider you have. And so are a non-on-demand at any rate. So I'm very familiar with, at least for the AWS side of things. I just wanted to say that pull request has been landed and I'm testing it. There are a few bugs that I personally have brought up to Liren, the original author of that pull request that adds Spot Inst. And the things that I've concerned myself with or cared about have been addressed by Liren in pull requests that have been opened against kops. To address some issues. I think you commented on at least one of them, Justin, so I saw that earlier today. So that's moving right along. I'm using like some special binary that I've gotten from Liren directly, so I wouldn't want to recommend folks do too much, like anything like production worthy with it, like that's still an alpha feature and still gated with a feature flag. But I'm testing it for my own purposes. We, as a company, Beeswax, we work very closely with Spot Inst. Actually doing a meetup next week. If you're in New York, there's a meetup, DevOps and Drinks. I'm going to talk a little bit about Spot Inst and Beeswax in our use case. But I would like to say that the integration works. It works well. I just have like questions, I think, mostly because I'm new to kops generally. Also, I'm using this new abstraction. So there's like a few things I'm trying to figure out, but like it works. It's an alpha feature. So I guess that's like point one I want to bring up. And point two, I had a question about, I'm trying to get, I'm trying to like make cluster upgrades, like updates and upgrades, like a core competency, like something we do routinely, but maybe we have like some like automation around. The thing I'm running, the problem I'm running into right now, I'm trying to determine, so whenever I just do a dry run of kops update cluster, and don't specify -- yes, and just kind of want to see like what has changed. My cluster always needs changes. Some of that was because of like Spot Inst integration, and Liren has addressed some of that. But I'm trying to figure out, like, the problem I'm having is just like the output is very verbose. And I'm also getting like a lot of extra information because we as a company use Spot Inst for other purposes. And so I'm getting a lot of extra information from Spot Inst about those extra resources. So my like output from kops update cluster is a bit of a mess. So it's hard for me to understand like what kops thinks, what update it thinks it needs to make. So I don't know if there's like tips for like trimming that down or to like JSON parse or something. Like, how do I figure out like what exactly needs to change? I mean, I can go ahead and read like 10,000 lines of output, but I'd rather spend an hour doing something else. So that's just like the general problem I have right now.
That's I mean, it's a great update. Thank you. And I think I would love to see a demo if you want to do a demo in 2 weeks or something, or 4 weeks, or or 2 end weeks.
The only problem I have with giving a demo is just like I would like to find like I need a sandbox. I would like to find a sandbox just to not leak too much information, and then just I need a credit card with that. So I gotta
fair enough. But yes, and then so on the issue you're facing, it might be, so it sounds like, so if you only have one or like 2 instance groups, if you have a small number of instance groups, no matter what, the information should be not 10,000 lines. And we do have some tests on AWS, like native AWS, I guess, which verify that after you do a kops update, like kops update should be a no op. But it sounds like, so that is a bug, and hopefully some of the PRs that are in flight may help. But as you say, if you're running the integration branch or their integration branch, it seems unlikely to be all of them. I don't know if we can, like, if you're comfortable with it, you can email them to me privately or put them on Slack, and we can try to figure out what's going on.
Well, the problem I'm having is like, I guess it's like if I should use a different account like a Spotinst account that doesn't have other, like Spotinst has Elastigroups, their equivalent of autoscaling groups. And so my logs are picking up all of the autoscaling groups associated with our account. And so
That are not.
Yeah. That are not associated with
kops
kops.
ones.
Yeah. It's just like, hey, here's some information about Elastigroups. And it's like, thanks, guys. I don't need that in this context.
Okay, that's really great news, because that's a relatively easy fix, and I think it's the same fix as like the PR that I looked at just before we started. So if they're the way that kops does it is we use tags, so you can run like 2 kops clusters in a single VPC in a native AWS kops. I'm trying to like come up with the words, but and they don't interfere with each other because kops filters by the cluster, by the tag, and the tag responds to the cluster. And it sounds like that isn't working for Spotinst, and that is a relatively easy fix because, well, if Spotinst supports tags on Elastigroups, then it's a relatively easy fix. Otherwise, I think we'll need to come up with some way to partition off the Elastigroups. Is that, if that's the right word, that belong to each cluster versus the ones that don't?
All right, I think that sounds good. I can check in with Liren about that and kind of bring it. Yeah, he's very accessible and it's very helpful to me to this end. So I'll check in with him and say as much.
And it almost sounds like those tags, like when we check to see the current state of things, those tags aren't even being checked at all, even if they like, because I feel like in the normal condition, they would be checked and you should actually get 0 current state or something like that. So there's like, yes, it sounds to me just like Justin said, like tag related. You might even be able to test some of this by adding a tag onto it once we figure out what the right tag is that you need onto your auto-scaling group. Anyway, yeah.
Cool. All right, I'll follow up with that. Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, and this problem like happens on, like the same problem would happen on AWS. Like you can have other auto-scaling groups in your VPC, kops or not, and we don't want to pick them up in kops. We want to like, ignore the things that kops is not managing. So, but yeah, it's certainly easy to get wrong, and yeah, I think definitely. I'm glad that you're running without yes, because who knows what will happen if it picks up all your like Elastigroups.
Right. Cool. Thank you.
Awesome. And yeah, it's great to see. And I will catch up on some of those reviews. But yeah, it sounds like that makes sense given the review I did this morning. So that's great. Ryan, I think I owe you some reviews on kube deploy, it looks like. Is that true? Ryan Bonham? No?
Sorry, what was that?
Do I owe you some reviews on kube deploy?
No, I don't believe so.
Oh, okay, cool. I thought I saw something. All right.
If it is, I don't remember.
Oh no, it's someone else. Sorry, Jay Slee. Sorry, Ryan. Okay, cool. Thank you. John Slee. I don't know if John Slee is here, but if you are, I'm sorry for not getting to your reviews. Okay, we've reached the end of the agenda when I checked it a minute ago. I don't know if anyone else has anything they want to bring up that off agenda, or otherwise everyone gets only 20 minutes, but 20 minutes back of their Fridays.
Hey, Justin, I missed the very beginning when you were talking about the 1.11 beta, and I see in the notes there that you mentioned that there's still an issue with node addresses missing. I had not.
Yes.
I've not run into that or seen that. Do you have a bug number or something? Or
yeah, that's a good. Let me see if I can just pull it up. So it's a cherry. So it's a bug that is fixed in master, but needs to be cherry picked to the 1.11 release branch. I will put a link into the.
Okay.
But yeah, if I can find it quickly, that would be great, wouldn't it? Cherry pick.
Never when you want to find it quick.
Exactly. The symptoms, anyway, are that your node has the addresses drop off your node. And if you do see that, then you are hitting that issue.
Okay.
I think it was hitting OpenStack. For whatever reason, it was hitting OpenStack more,
Okay.
but I don't see any reason why it would only hit OpenStack.
Okay. Yeah, we've been running the 1.11 alpha on our test cluster now for 2 weeks, and we've run the full conformance suite test against it. Haven't run into any issues, but just wanted to see what that was.
Yeah, it's subtle. So it's like it's a race condition, and as I understand, it's a race condition. So if EC2 was slow to respond, I guess you would describe instances request, it would maybe fork your node addresses, and then that would manifest itself as you not being able to exec or logs or proxy to the pod until the next cycle. So it's not disaster, but we're still finding stuff in 1.11 was, I think, the message.
Sure.
Okay, and I will look that up and put that in there. I don't know if anyone else has any other issues or things they want to bring up, but otherwise, everyone gets a little bit of time back.
Hey, Justin, I was wondering if I can steal a little bit of your time to get some ammo here. So we currently have some grumblings within our team management to potentially do that switching to EKS instead of going on kops. And I was wondering if you could help provide, a good reason why we should stick with kops, because like I'm trying to avoid having to do a migration and getting a lot of heat from like within my management team to say like, oh, well, if we just go to something managed, everyone's lives will be solved. But it's not just quite that simple. I was wondering, is it maybe a performance or a feature parity with Kubernetes? Just to, perhaps why we should stick with kops.
Chime in really quickly. I don't know if Justin can say as much, but as a user of kops and as a user of Amazon services, not necessarily EKS, but other services, I can say that one reason to go with kops is just rate limiting. AWS, I don't know how large your cluster will get, but potentially using EKS and having I'm not. There's no real transparency in AWS's rate limiting for different API calls, and I'm not sure what API calls you will need to make when on your EKS cluster. But I have experience in my 6 months of working at a startup getting rate limited on some different AWS services, but our use case is very different. Again, come to the meetup and DevOps and Drinks next Tuesday. Check out what our use case is, but sales pitch aside, I'd say rate limiting in AWS is a problem, but you could probably, some of that is mitigated in kops if you have your own, it's like HTTP and at the API server, so you'll have to scale that out. But that's one thing I can say about not using an AWS managed service for Kubernetes. Again, it just depends on how large, what kind of scale you're operating at.
Yeah, I can jump into I've looked at this now at 2 companies. I'm at my second company, and David behind me recently did a deep dive on this for the same problem. So what it came down to for us is really the masters, the control plane. That AWS does a fantastic job of managing that for you. Sometimes you don't want that completely managed. So our biggest problem is we want to run KIAM that lets you manage per pod IAM permissions. And the way you generally deploy that is you put the servers that manage the actual access, you run that on your master nodes. And then all requests are proxied through the masters, and the masters have the delegation permissions on IAM. That way every node doesn't need that permission, right? You can't really run it with that model if you don't have no access to the control plane. So in a kops cluster, you'll do kubectl get pods, all namespaces, and you'll see it all the API servers, the controller manager, all the different parts that make Kubernetes chug. In EKS, it's just not there. You get, I think, 1 or 2 things like AWS node, which is the networking component.
Yeah, and even then, that's just the networking component on whatever nodes you actually have running. Nothing on the quote-unquote master, the control plane. Another issue is that as of right now, there's no way to actually configure the control plane. So if you want to say we were doing OIDC stuff, you can do that with EKS. I don't know if they're going to add the ability to configure that kind of stuff in some sort of dashboard or with AWS API. It'd be great if they did, but as of right now, that's not possible.
And let me also add that if there's any Amazon folks on this call, We love Amazon. We love yes.
Yes.
We're excited to see where it's going. We pay you a lot of money, so we're excited.
Exactly.
But yes, right now there's a lot of advantages, at least from our perspective, to using kops.
The other advantage is EKS currently is in one region only. So
wow, that definitely won't work.
If you're multi-region, yeah, you're out of luck.
Yeah, we're already in 4 regions. I didn't even know
Yep.
EKS was
You're out of luck.
All right,
US
well,
East
thank you.
only.
That pretty much solves the problem right there.
I also, my understanding is also that EKS doesn't manage the nodes. Is that true? So if you're looking for the fully managed experience, based on my understanding, that would.
Yeah, it only goes the masters. It doesn't.
So just the masters.
You have that
too. You have to bring your own, right?
Yeah.
You have to bring your own nodes.
All right.
You can, they give you a Packer script where you can create your own AMIs and all that stuff, but usually you take care of your own nodes. You update your own nodes. They just update the Kubernetes version.
Awesome. Well, we look forward.
I would say, obviously, Amazon. Yeah, and Amazon has a great history of improving things with every release. So I'm sure they're not going to stand still, and they have reInvent coming up. So I'm sure they will continue to improve it. But I think I think people have given you a fair assessment of the differences.
Thank you. Thanks to the community.
Yeah, thank you. Especially because it's awkward for me as a Google employee to make that analysis.
Quick addendum to my earlier question about kops and updating the cluster. Actually, I went back and it's rolling update that I have an issue with. Update works with rolling update.
And the PR that I looked at was actually around rolling update.
Okay.
So it looks like it might be filtering on rolling update. So that could be a relatively simple fix. And it was DevOps and Drinks on Tuesday in New York.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, one more shameless plug. So sorry.
Sounds good. All right. All right, last call for any remaining issues or remaining topics. All right. I wish everyone a very happy Friday and a very happy weekend.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. Thank you so much.
See you guys. Thanks.
Bye-bye.